Look, Mr. Sherlock, you have thrown your name in the political arena, but before we get into the meat of the conversation, just tell the audience a bit about your background and what it is that you do.
In terms of what I presently do, I've been back on the island about 2 years, and I've been engaged with teaching GED courses at the Care Learning Center under Dr. Nalitha Butterfield. I've been also engaged in teaching GED at the prison facilities with incarcerated individuals, both at Westgate and at the co-ed correctional facility. Outside of that, I'm also a golf instructor. In the last 4 or 5 years, I've been affiliated with the David Ledbetter golf instruction brand, which is actually like the top 3 golf instruction brand in the world, and really kind of finding my way within that space and building my portfolio, if you will, my resume in terms of being a top golf instructor here in Bermuda, and to kind of go along with the project that I've been engaged with most recently in Ghana, West Africa.
And thank you for returning to the community. And with your return, you've decided to throw your name in the political arena and run in Constituency 2. Why politics and why that constituency?
Well, why politics? I mean, ultimately, it's about making a difference, yeah? And as it is, the Premier called the election as and when he did. And I just thought that this was an opportunity and a good time for me, even in terms of the transitions and other things that I'm going through, to try to be the change that I feel our community so desperately needs. We all know about the idea of being perceived as kind of an armchair quarterback and sitting on the outside and criticizing, but it was the prime opportunity to kind of bring about the change. Part of the reason even why I had moved to Ghana was because people may not know, but I had quit my job at Bermuda College as a lecturer and was pursuing my passion of golf. A friend of mine had put in a response to an RFP to be able to take over the Ocean View, but for whatever reason, that wasn't accepted. So it was just about from there, me looking for a new challenge. And my new challenge was my experience in Ghana, West Africa. And so now we've gotten that program to a point where it's somewhat sustainable. And me being in Bermuda is directly linked to making the program in Ghana sustainable. So it was also being in Bermuda and identifying what my next challenge is going to be. And with the election being called, I think that the preparation and everything, my actual academic training, my work and life experience has really prepared me to be able to serve my community.
Now, you thought with the election coming up, you thought maybe you'd throw your hat to the ring. But why did the FDM appeal to you over other political parties or running as an independent? What was it about the FDM that really spoke to you?
Well, what I found in the FDM were like-minded individuals. Ultimately, I found that like-minded individuals we were able to put forth a united front and able to put forth policies that we can collectively stand on in order to kind of get the island to move in a better direction. I myself, I was a former member of the PLP. I was a former branch chair of the PLP, but my family have always and only voted PLP. But personally, within myself, we want to kind of see the country heading in a different direction. As it is, we haven't heard anything from the existing opposition, be it the OBA, who've been in that position to be able to hold our leaders accountable. But for whatever reason, we haven't necessarily seen that. And with regards to the independence movement, like I said, I found more like-minded persons within the FDM, and I can appreciate that as being a part of the FDM, it also allows me to be able to better present what I stand for and what we stand for collectively to try to impact change on the island. So why Constituency 2? One thing is that, Bermuda is a small jurisdiction. And so the idea was about, is about getting involved and giving back. And so no matter where you run, ultimately you have the potential to have impact island-wide. So my mother's side of the family are actually from St. George's. So I have roots in St. George's. My uncle is Clarence Toppins Parfit, he has the most wickets in the Cup Match Classic. My great-grandfather was Bernard Hutzel, who was a very popular swimming instructor in St. George's. And in fact, until this day, my relatives, my cousins, continue to reside in the pilot Jimmy Darrow house. So I'm actually a direct descendant of pilot Jimmy Darrow. So my history, my family roots are very much embedded in the St. George's story. Beyond that, I'm also on the verge of some potential business interest in that community. And so the idea was that as I was already pursuing my business interest in St. George's, and then an election was called, one could be of the opinion that, well, you know, I kind of quote unquote, I have mine, so to speak, if I'm able to kind of develop a successful business. But with what I see, everything going on around me, it was like, well, do I want to be okay for myself, but then potentially sit by and watch things around me kind of go in an unhealthy direction, or go ahead and get knee deep in the community where you are hoping to have a business prospect, but also get embedded in the community to help the entire community and everyone around us kind of move forward. My personality and my character is such that if I do things, I generally have a tendency to go all the way. So it just kind of really fit with who I am as a person to really fully immerse myself in the process of change.
That's fantastic. And, you know, thank you for sharing your kind of historical background with the PLP. We really appreciate that. And it really does illuminate kind of where you've been and where you're going. But where do you believe that the PLP government has gone wrong? And what will you and the FDM do to fix things here on the island?
I oftentimes relate it to having not seen a relative or a family member for, let's say, 5 or 10 years for a period of time. And because you haven't seen the day-to-day transitions of change that happens, when you do see that family member again, you're like, wow, look at you. You know, you've really changed. You've put on weight, you've gained weight, you've done this or the other. And for me, that was my experience in returning back to the island, that, wow, you know, this island has really changed. And unfortunately, some of the change hasn't necessarily been for the better. What we've seen, or what we've seen and what we experienced, and what I'm even hearing on the doorstep, having been out there canvassing, is basically a leadership that has really kind of become disconnected from the people. And that, you know, the idea that one doesn't have an opposition, either from its own backbenchers or from the quote unquote opposition, people are seemingly in a position where, as though they're serving the interest of a small enclave, as opposed to serving the interest of the wider community. I've heard instances on the doorsteps, I think it was alluded to in the introduction of this show, of cases where constituents have taken their matters to their representative, to their MP. And again, this is times where I've talked to people from multiple constituencies, so I'm not necessarily pointing the finger at any one particular person, but where they've said that they've shared issues with their representative, the representative was gung-ho and on board, but when they took it back to their base, because it was against or contrary to what their base or their party was going towards, that whole matter kind of fizzled out and died there. And so it really begs the question for us to really ask ourselves, who are we, and again, you guys alluded to it, who are we as politicians really serving? Are we serving the party? Are we here to protect the party? Or are we serving the constituents and the people who have put us there? So hearing these sorts of issues from individual constituents, after meeting with representatives from a group of taxi owners, after meeting with representatives from the fishing association on the island, and then also after even reading and seeing most recently in the newspaper from the teachers, these groups, we have various entities that are singing a similar song, that we have an administration and leadership that are not listening to them. They're not respecting their input within the respective field of expertise. We have people who are fishermen for a living or on the waters regularly and are an afterthought when we're looking at implementing policies with regard to our waters. We have, teachers who are feeling as though, in some respects, they're not also being fully engaged in the changes in the education system, so feeling a bit out of place and ill-prepared to deliver the lessons to our students. So we're hearing time and time again from these groups that are core parts of our society, and from individuals who make up our society, that our messages are not getting heard, and our messages, our concerns are not being addressed by the present administration. And hence why we can sometimes see a bit of a disconnect with some of the things that are put forth in terms of idea, and then when we look at what is actually being taken place on the ground. So as the FDM, what can we do about it? We feel within the FDM that we can actually be the voice of reason and the voice of the constituents in the House of Assembly. if we are able to get elected and get our members in there, we would be fearless in voicing the concerns of the constituents. We oftentimes like to see ourselves as the courageous truth speakers that our democracy so desperately needs, so that we can have a bit of a balance in the House.
What, in regards to C2 specifically, what are you hearing on the doorsteps is the most concerning for your constituents who are living in C2?
All right. I mean, in some regards, there's a bit of a spillover between specific C2 and national issues, i.e. the roads, railroad trails. So that is kind of specific to our roads, and it's also nationally. But now, in particular with C2, one of the big issues, particularly those with young people, is around education and around the closing of the St. George's Prep. And, just wanting to gain a better understanding as to how and why we got to this decision. Obviously, we want to believe that our decision makers are making decisions based off of data, based off of research, basically making decisions that can be well defended. But on the doorstep, many people are kind of questioning why did they chose to close a school that was actually performing quite well. So they're really concerned about what is going to happen with the education system. And with the various changes and back and forths, it creates a bit of instability and anxiety for young parents, and even for the older persons who have grandchildren and are concerned about their future. So that's one of the key things, the education and what's going to happen with the schools in the area in particular. The other thing that I'm hearing a lot about just has to do with the town of St. George. We do have a number of vacated businesses in the town. So just kind of addressing that, looking to kind of spruce up the town a bit, and also having some things that also ensure that the town is catering as much to the tourists that will come through, but also for the locals, so that even when the tourist season is quieting down, we are still catering to the local population.
Karen Simmons, she says, "Morning, Quinton. As a candidate for a party, FDM, how would your input be different than what is happening now in party politics? Are the FDM candidates more like independents within the party structure?"
All right, I think that one thing that helps to distinguish the FDM candidates from the independents is that, we do have our position. You know where we stand on certain matters. If you can go online to fdmbva.bm, and you can see our respective positions on critical matters that the island is facing, versus the independents. And again, my understanding is that they each would have their own perspective, quote unquote, policy on those respective matters as you go through the list of independents. So I think that being within the FDM allows us to put forth a more unified perspective and a more concise position on matters that are very important that the island is facing.
What would be your final message if this was the last time you were able to speak with, people who had the opportunity to vote for you? What would you tell them? What would you say to them at this point?
At this time, my message is such that no one can predict the future. We don't know what the future holds. However, one of the best indicators of the future and of future behavior is to look into the past. And I would say that I can stand on a track record that wherever I've been over the last 10, 15 years since finishing my graduate studies, I've been able to make an impact and make a lasting change. When I was a professor at the Bermuda College, amongst other things, I developed and taught the first online course at Bermuda College. Now there's a slew of online courses available for students, expanding our educational opportunities. When I was the president of Ocean View Golf Club, I led a team that went out and collected our history. So today you can go to Ocean View and see the rich history of the Ocean View Golf Club. When I was the president of the Bermuda Junior Golf Association, we organized PE golf in the PE classes for the middle schools, and also organized middle school golf tournaments. And then, as I've mentioned, most recently, in Ghana, West Africa, I've been able to develop a program that is now becoming self-sustaining, where I don't have to be there. And young people that I've trained and helped them to develop, are now there running the program. So if my past and my record of making a difference and making an impact holds true for the future, then persons can be relatively confident or assured that if I'm given the opportunity to represent C2, after the election that I would again continue to make an impact and make a difference where I found myself. One of my uncles from Nigeria, he oftentimes says that, you know, wherever you go, try to be like the elephant, because long after the elephant has left the place, you can still see its footprint.
Just remind people, Quinton, where they can go to learn more about you and the FDM's plans for Bermuda.
Yeah, they can go to fdmbda.bm is our website, and there they'll be able to find our policies and learn more about our candidates that are running in the upcoming election.
Quinton, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for making time for us. Thank you for sharing your story and with the greater public. And I think I speak for many when we say we wish you the best, successful or not. You know, you're better than many of us who, you know, haven't put our names forth. I think it's honorable, it's admirable, and I think that, you know, whether it's yourself or Tiffany or whoever else, we just want, as we stated earlier, we just really want a certain caliber of candidate representing the interests of the constituencies before anything else. So all the best to you, brother, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and have a good day, everyone. Have a good day, Bermuda.
All right, folks. Quinton Sherlock Jr., FDM candidate for Constituency 2. If you appreciated that conversation, please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share it with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Don't forget, we're not done yet. We're gonna we've got some trivia coming up. Don't go anywhere. It's Remember When. We'll be back in about, let's see, 1 minute, 40 seconds. Stick with us.